Thanks so much. Our next guest is an award-winning journalist who says, don't ask the meaning of life. Life is asking, what's the meaning of you?
His name is Scott Pelley, and he's been a reporter and photographer for more than 45 years. He's best known for his work on 60 Minutes and as an anchor and managing editor of CBS Evening News.
He now has a new book, Truth Worth Telling, and he joins us now to share some of his page-turning stories. We're so excited to have you here, Scott.
Kristen, Marquette, it's so great to be with you. I'm grateful.
Congratulations on the book. Before we get into these stories, what made you want to put all this down on paper?
You know, I wanted to write a memoir, Kristen, but I didn't want to write a memoir about me because I figured no one would care about that. If I started a book that said I was born in San Antonio, Texas in 1957, and then there were another 500 pages, nobody was going to sit still for that. But it occurred to me that I had met some of the most interesting people and some of the most inspiring people in the world in doing my work. Some of them famous, some of them not famous, people you may never have heard of. And I wanted to write about them. So that's what this book is about.
And when I thumb through your book, I see pictures of you with heads of state, U.S. presidents, the Pope, and then children in Haiti after the devastating earthquake, and devastations all around the world. What do you want to get across to people? The book is called Truth Worth Telling. What is the truth that you've seen through traveling and reporting on world affairs?
That's a great question, Marquette. You know, as we say at the beginning of the book, something that you mentioned in the intro a moment ago, I noticed people in Paris on the night of the ISIS attack that killed 120 people, men, women, and children bringing candles to a makeshift memorial. And they all had this perplexed look on their face. And I thought, you know, I have seen these people before. I saw them at the World Trade Center on 9/11. I saw them in Oklahoma City when the building was bombed. And they all had the same questioning look, like, what is the meaning of life? And it occurred to me that maybe that's the wrong question. Don't ask the meaning of life. Life is asking, what's the meaning of you? So this book is about people who discovered the meaning of their lives during some of the historic moments of our times.
And that's what's so incredible with the news media under attack these days. It's hard for a lot of people to remember why we got into this business, and it's to tell those stories. Yeah, with this job that Marquette and I have, we get to meet celebrities like you, but we also get to meet everyday people that are doing incredible things to change the world around them. One of the stories that you have in there is about an Army nurse that you met that was out there and gave her own blood to help save a life.
There was a young Marine who came into a theater hospital in Iraq where I was, and he had been hit by a mortar. He was bleeding from 3 arteries. He was very close to bleeding out entirely. They took him into surgery. Over the 5-hour surgery, they went through all the blood in the blood bank. A nurse came into the OR as I'm standing there and said, "We're out of blood." All the surgeons looked up like, well, what now? And this nurse who was running the OR said, "I'll get more." And I thought, more? There isn't any more. And so she ran out of the tent, and I ran after her. By the time I got to the next tent, which was the blood bank, she had opened her own veins and was bleeding into bags, and they were moving those bags into that young man. That gave them time to call everybody on the base, and they had 100 people in a line at the blood bank in 30 seconds or so. And they saved him. They saved that kid. And I met him months later here in Washington at Walter Reed. So that chapter, for example, is called Selflessness. And that's what I mean about people who discover the meaning of their lives.
You know, there are some moving stories in here like that. You went to ground zero on 9/11 and you saw the emotion, the raw emotion there. And then we see you hugging people who have been through, children who have been through turmoil. And now you're in Washington. What is your message to some political leaders who may be reading your book, trying to gain insight through your experiences?
Values matter. Character is destiny. I would like to go up to Capitol Hill and just shout that from the top of the dome. I think that's exactly what we're seeing. You know, the book is going to be controversial. I get that because of what I say about the Democrats and the Republicans. If you ask me, and I don't do opinion, but in the book I do, I don't think either party is serving this country very well right now. And there have certainly been better times in the past. We need to go back to some of that comedy in which people could talk to each other. You know, there are 50 stars on the flag. There are no flags that have conservative states on them and flags that have liberal states on them. They're 50 stars. And that blue field is called the Union for a reason. And we need to get all of our stars back together there, because it's going to be a very challenging century. And it can be a new American century, but we're going to have to talk to each other to get that done.
And real quick, before we let you go, everybody has a story to tell these days. So what is your advice to young journalists out there?
Oh boy. My advice to young journalists is there is no democracy without journalism. The founders gave us the power over the government, right? That was the brilliance of the Constitution. But in order to exercise that power, as you two know, we have to have independent, reliable information to make decisions about the life of the country. So for people who are young journalists or considering journalism, I say, please come on board. We need you, but we need you to be good. And what I'd like to do in my life now is be a stepping stone for that next generation. The last chapter in the book is called To a Young Journalist, and it's about the ethics and the values that all of us have in this profession.
What an inspiration you are, Scott Pelley. You are going to be at Politics and Prose on Connecticut Avenue at 4 p.m. And I'm hoping not just young aspiring journalists come out, anyone who is a consumer of news media, come meet this man, read the book, and gain new perspective on world affairs. Thank you so much for your time here.
Marquette, so good to be with you. Kristen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.